very good morning to all of you. So today we are going to have a very important session, that is the final round of legislative drafts competition 2020, and we are also going to organize a webinar on a very important topic, that is right to health and public health. And our keynote speaker, as discussed by Laba, Dr. Vikesh Ram Tripathi, who is a very dear friend to me. He is a faculty member in Faculty of Law, University of Delhi also, and he has a very wide experience in public health and in the corporate law also. So I most welcome you, dear Vikesh Ram Tripathi, and I sincerely sincerely gratitude to you to that you shared our time with all of us on this issue. So, Dr. Vikesh, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Jubair. And in fact, I am very much thankful to the Honorable Vice Chancellor of the IPU University, then the Honorable Dean and my teacher from the Faculty of Law, IPU University. Apart from that, the DSW, the authorities concerned to that, and my dear, I would like to say the colleague and my LLM batchmate, Mr. Jubair, for inviting me and providing me this platform to interact with you all on this such a very relevant topic, that is right to health and the public health. As we are all going and facing a very unprecedented situation in the form of COVID-19 pandemic and all, almost the last 6 months we are facing this, and not only we, in fact the entire worldwide, we are facing this problem. So I think my sincere gratitude from the bottom of the heart to selecting this topic, I tell you, and organizing this event, that too in a legislative draft format. So I congratulate the IP University, the law department, and the DSW for this. For this is the really needed. Believe me, I'm every day attending webinars and seminars, but very rarely found, and this is actually needed. I hope you are all observing the things it's going on in spite of the best effort by the central government and the concerned state government. See, this is an unprecedented situation for all, for the government, for we the individuals. So in I hope I have the 45 minutes for lecture, and after that we will be going into the like judging the round, the final round. So I hope Dr. Jubair, the 45 minutes I will have to deliver my lecture.
Yes, sure. Can you please be louder, I think.
Now it's clear?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think it will be okay. So in the coming 45 minutes we will be talking. In fact, I hope the audience is the law students maximum, and I think even after recording it will be for the law student and the legal law people. So see, though we are all well aware, in fact, that the right to health is not a direct fundamental right or not a direct legal right, but in the Constitution of India provided as a one of the, not exactly the right format, but as a directory principle of state policy to the welfare state, or the state which we have in the form of center and the state in India. So it's a nevertheless governance in the country, the right to health. I will start by this obligation of the state. The moment you claim that you are a welfare state, I will not go to the beginning that how the social contract theory came into the picture, what's the relationship between individual and state, what is the obligation of a state. These are all very basic debates I hope you are well aware with. So the premise which I want to establish is that why state is duty bound to provide the health protection and health facilities to the citizen of India, even also to that extent I include even the persons, those they are landing in the Indian territory, they also deserve, because Article 21 you all know is available not only for the citizens but also for the persons. So any foreigner in any capacity, if it is landing, he is also by virtue of interpretation of Article 21 becomes entitled to the all rights that are recognized through the Article 21, the various dimensions of the Article 21. So right to health is one of the dimensions of that. We will see into that. Anyway, so constitutionally speaking, as of the constitutional status and why it is so. You all know in India, constitutional law is a grand norm. In hierarchy of the norm, the Kelsenite grand norm. So it is the grand norm from where other lower norms derive their authority. But above that, we are all aware that we are living in a global village. We are we are, even India is happen to be the original member of the United Nations. So we believe in the cosmopolitan world. So considering that we happen to be the member of various international organizations, we are in various international organizations. So time to time we accept the conventions, and accordingly, as per our constitution, we you know what adopt it into our domestic legislation through the Article 253, all the international convention. Why I am focusing so? Because see, India is a signatory of two basic conventions. Of course, UDHR not enforceable, but there are two. International Bill of Rights, there are two conventions: International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, International Convention on Socio and Economical Rights. So ICCR, both conventions directly, indirectly puts an obligation under Article 25, and the more precisely saying the few other articles of these conventions, they talks about the right to health. It will be an obligation of the member countries to provide in their domestic legislations. Once you sign this agreement, so in your domestic legislations, you have to provide the right to health as a basic right to your subjects. So in this regard, I would like to cite you and see the Supreme Court time and again has, you remember, I hope, the Visakha judgment. Apart from that, very many judgments we will be finding where even Supreme Court went on to saying that if the government of India even not sign, but if something becomes the customary principle of international law, so that should be implemented, that should be regarded, and that's what we have done in Visakha judgment. Also to the Visakha judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court has done so. The precise point is,
I think
we are lagging behind. We cannot only blame.
Sir, I guess there are some technical issues at your end, some connectivity issues.
Now I am clear.
yes,
Yes, sir.
yes. Please go ahead, please.
Anyway, it was, I think, some issue from my side. Anyway, I have just corrected. It was a call, so I disconnected. Anyway, so I was talking. Why? What is the situation worldwide? The right to health and the public health, and where we are. So I was discussing the situation in US. See, there is a compulsory health protection there. Even in Europe also there is a compulsory health protection. But we in India, of course, we have a very welfare schemes, medical schemes like Ayushman Bharat. Apart from that, in the state government level also, we have a number of welfare medical schemes. But in spite of that, we are still lagging a compulsory. Though we are arguing, the scholars are arguing for that. The government is also the policy makers are also seriously thinking about it, but their level best, as of now, we have a central scheme. We have a health policy, national health policy in 2018 accordingly, and also we have this Ayushman Bharat scheme for below poverty level, the income level criteria. Apart from that, the public structure of the hospital, the public hospitals, we have a good network. I agree that a few may be like lagging behind, few are very good. We are doing very exceptionally good throughout the India, but still, by and large, we need to improve a lot so far as the public hospital system is concerned. But believe me, it's not possible in 1 day or 2 days, and it is not only possible by one-way process like the government only. So we have to be join their hand. And see, apart from that, I will be talking in my lecture also the accountability of the medical practitioners. See, the medical practitioners, when I say, I don't only mean to doctors, the hospital managements, the people involved in the lab technicians, the nursing staff, the number of number of persons involved in the entire working of the hospital system. So their accountability, their responsibility, their sense of belongingness. See, that's really important. I hope you are all law student. This practice is not, so far I am aware in law, that we do not take any oath. However, I keep on saying in my lectures that this kind of oath should also be in the law before you go and join the practice. But unlike the law, in the medical, there is a Hippocratic oath. Many of you might be aware. Dr. Jubair, I will be like limiting my lecture in 30 minutes, and I will be more interested if the students will be interested to asking the questions. So that will be more participatory and interactive way, I think, if the current scheme permits so. Otherwise, I can go on taking the lecture on 45 minutes or 1 hour. So let me remind the moderator also how it can be done. But if the scheme permits, I would be more happy to be go the question and answer session while delivering a 15 and 20 minutes introductory lecture on right to health and public health. So it will be fine.
Yes, sir, that'll be completely fine.
Okay, so I was talking about the few initial things, few introductory remarks. So let me begin formally this lecture, and let me in what is exactly the current legal scenario, the current legal position, and then after that I will be discussing the other things related to it, basically the health policy 2018, and as of now considering this pandemic where we are and what we should take as a message of learning out of this pandemic. So we will be talking all these things in coming 45 minutes. So friends, I was talking about what is our international obligations, and so is our constitution, and so is we have to be enact a law at the ground level. So I was talking about the two conventions. In these two conventions, very particularly, I can quote the Article 25(2) of the Universal Declaration of Convention of Economic and Social and Cultural Rights, and the time and time Supreme Court has also said that the guideline and advisory to implement in toto and true sense. Then further, the object and the protection of this Human Rights Act 1993, which is enacted in India in pursuance to these two conventions, is again directly and indirectly in few of the sections, not possible because of the time, but talks about the right to health protection and right to health. Apart from that, the response from the judicial side is a very energetic, very positive, and the Supreme Court, we also be thankful to you, starting from the cases like Permanent Katara Badhua Mukti Morcha case, and then this Paschim Banga Khet Mazdoor Sabha case, State of Punjab versus Ram Lubhaya Bagga case, Sheila Barse versus Union of India, Mehta versus Union of India, Vincent versus Union of India, and many more. I can say you many more. Eslal versus State of Bihar, then the Consumer Education and Research Center versus Union of India, talking about the responsibilities of the government as a taking measures to protection of the health, and then the right to health, right to immediately providing the medical health in case of accidents, the guidelines for the medical negligence, then the responsibilities of the hospital managers, responsibility of the doctors, accountability of the doctors. So in these cases, if the time will permit, individually we will come on each cases, but it was just a cursory look to you that how the, let me clear you the constitutional provisions. As in the very introductory mark I told you, it is not as such a direct right under Part 3rd, though we have right to life and liberty in Article 21. But let me tell you the another constitutional scheme, and that's basically the beauty of the judicial interpretation in India. If you are a sincere student of a constitutional law, you will find that many of the directive principles of state policy that has been through the interpretation of Article 21 is now becomes the, have been given a status of fundamental right, like equal pay for equal work, right to work, right to health. See, so far as constitutional status are concerned, you will find in DPSP and in fundamental duties directly and indirectly right to health. The the nutrition and all, Article 48 onward, and then Article 39E, few relevant provisions, you are all aware. I am not going to that. My focus is something that these provisions, so there is no direct right to health. Of course, there is a direct principle of a state policy to provide you the all health infrastructure. The government is a duty bound, and as you all know that Supreme Court has been bent on to saying even that the directive principle of state policy is not merely a guiding principle, or not merely, don't think that they are they are fundamental in the governance of the country, and it is clearly written in the constitution also, reading by Article 37 and 38. So that is the position. So don't think that simply the right to health or the provisions related to the health is in the directive principle of state policy. In any way they are less important than the part third. So the government, the welfare state, is a duty bound to implement these policies. And see, over the period of time, the government has come with the various welfare health schemes, all governments, and very recently this present government come in the form of National Health Policy 2018. If the time will permit, we will be talking a little bit about that also. So the starting from Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha, then this Mehta versus Union of India, then the Permanent Katara case. So the Supreme Court indirectly recognized that a right to health and health protection is a fundamental right, is a very basic part of the right to life and liberty. You can think also how practically it is possible to implement right to life and liberty until if you are not going to have a right to health. Because see, if you are not healthy, you cannot live. Your life is not practically not possible. So that is why, though it is not clearly written in part third, but it is well understood and well interpreted over the period of time. We should be very thankful to the Indian judiciary for clarifying this position. And as a teacher of constitutional law, as a student of constitutional law, I believe that the article, by way of Article 21, right to health is one of the very important right and a fundamental right available to the citizens of India, and enforceable in case of breach of it. The people can go for filing the writ petitions under 226 and 32, and they can claim constitutional tort. This is the remedy, the constitutional remedy. We will go on to the other remedies also. Anyway, having said so, and clearing this picture, I would like to become and start my debate with the national educational policy. We have to talk this, and that too when we are in the this situation. We are facing a unprecedented situation, as I told you. So we have to talk this policy, and you all know aware that right now the country, so far as the health infrastructure and the health issues are concerning, so the Disaster Management Act as well as the Pandemic Acts in few states. So these lockdowns and all these, you might be knowing this, that how the government is doing all these things. So there are the legislations. So the government, either the central government or the state government, by utilizing the Disaster Management Act, the powers given there, and in the Pandemic Acts, they are as and when it is being required, and on regular basis, like releasing and you know what, easing the lockdowns time and time wherein required, and in a what I would like to say, in a balanced cooperative federalism way, cooperative unitary and state way, they are trying their level best. Of course, there are some challenges. Of course, there are some issues that yet to be addressed. I do agree on that. We will taking to this, that what is need to be done yet, and where is we are like we need to do the improvements in spite of the best effort from the government, and where is the academia should talk about this, and what the moral responsibility, the accountability and responsibility of the entire medical staff, as I was talking about. But let me finish this in a cursory way, this National Health Health Policy 2017. See, friends, it was introduced in 2017 after consultation. A draft was submitted, and now it was implemented. Various schemes are now implemented under this policy. So it is a 30 pages document, which start from introduction, talks about the goals, principles, and objective, the key policies and principles, the objective, the why I am focusing, let me tell you this policy, because still constitutionally speaking, the right to health and the health related provisions are in the directive principles of state policy. So though there are good judgment from the Supreme Court side, and then there are indirect interpretations also, but ultimately this policy matters. This is as of now a document from where we can look upon and we can fix the responsibility of the government, what the government is promising to us. So the policy thrust, ensuring the equate investment, preventive and promotive health, few topics that are dealt in the policy, organizing a public health care delivery, primary care services and community of care, secondary care services, reorienting the public hospitals, then closing infrastructure and human resource, and then fulfilling the skill gaps, urban health care, what's the improvement can be there, the child and adolescent health, specifically addressed in the policy, intervention to address the malnutrition and the micronutrient deficiency, universal immunization, communicable disease and their the preventive steps, then the non-communicable disease, then the mental health. We can see the suicides that are going on, either the exams results come, or you can see in what recently happened in the Bollywood also. So the mental health, see the legal academia is also discussing a lot how to come with a perfect legislation with regard to the mental health. So health not only means the physical health, the mental health also. So my dear student and my dear colleague, don't think that the health means only the physical health. The mental health also, I hope you are well aware, it's just to highlight you. So the mental health, this policy as well talks about, as I told you, the universal immunization and all. Then the population stabilization is the another topic dealt in the policy. Further, the women health and gender mainstreaming, gender-based violence has been dealt in the policy, how to be handle this and what is the take on of the government. Then the supportive supervision, emergency care and disaster preparedness, mainstreaming the potentials of Ayush. Ayush, you all know the mega scheme launched by the government. Then the territory care services, human resource for health, financing of health care, collaboration with non-government sectors, private hospitals, because you all know that we are very limited government hospitals. So as of now, the population size which we have to collaborate with the private sector. So how to collaborate with them, what will be the scheme, how to engage the private sector, the policy does talk about this. Then the regulatory framework, how to regulate the medical education, the clinical education, the pharma education. See, number of things are there. So medical practitioners are one thing. Apart from that, there's the pharma industry, there's the pharma education to be regulated. Apart from that, even the medical, we have a different kind of pathies like allopathy, homeopathy, naturopathy. So there are different councils to regulate that. So this policy does talk about it in a comprehensive and in a collaborative manner. How can we a better regulatory framework for that? If the time will permit, I will deal to it. Then the vaccine safety, the another topic. Then the medical technology, public procurement, availability of drugs and medical devices. Then aligning other policies for medical devices and equipment of public health goals. Improving public sector capacity for manufacturing essential drug and vaccines, the another topic. Antimicrobial resistance, health technology and assessment, and then the digital health technology ecosystem, health surveys, health research, governance, and finally the policy talks about the legal framework for healthcare and healthy pathway, and then the implementation framework and way forward. So this is all about the national health policy introduced in 2008, basically introduced in 17 and now implemented in 18. So this was that. Friends, I highlighted the topics that are covered in this policy, and I will be discussing only two things from this that is relevant from law point of view. One is the regulatory scheme and another is the legal framework. That is important for us. The rest is like the relevant from other disciplines. Of course, we need to know. I request you all to be please read this policy statement apart from the cases and the constitutional provisions and the legislative provisions. Please do read this. It will be a wonderful document. Of course, if in a letter and spirit it is implemented, it will be really far-reaching consequences. So I will, without you know what, because I know that the time is limited one, we have to go for the judging the final round also. So very quickly, the thing which I want to highlight to you people is this regulatory framework. See, this. So the regulatory framework, I tell you, how the things are being regulated, and this policy talks about. See, it talk about the professional educational regulation, how to regulate the medical education, the Ayurveda, the Unani, the Siddha, the homeopathy, the nursing, the dental and the pharmacy. So professional education regulation. Then the education of clinical establishment. As few states have adopted the Clinical Establishment Act 2010, advocacy with the other state would be made for the adoption of the same act, grading of the clinical establishment and activity promotion. So apart from that, the food safety, we have, you all know that the enforcement of food safety and standard FSS Act 2016 is the Food Safety Act. Then the drug regulation. You all know the government is now opening the generic pharma centers, so that because see, the one issue in the pharma sector is the cheap availability of the medicines at the cheap rate. So the private players, they are increasing the prices of the drug. So how to regulate that? And of course, the government has come with the Jan Aushadhi stores, and it is functional in few cities. It is being established in few cities and states. So that is one thing. Now the medical devices regulation. In hospitals, you will be coming across number of medical devices. So how to regulate that and all. So the policy does talk about that there is a the related laws and how it can be better implemented, and the amendment required. Then the clinical trial regulations. You all know that we are working on this a vaccine for this coronavirus. So the clinical trial is under challenge. Starting from the Oxford, the Japan, the Russia, they are all trying their level best. The final vaccine yet to become in India also. Our scientists from CDRI and the NBL and a few other labs of CSIR, they are trying their level best to become with the vaccine. And I am very positive and hopeful very soon. I think our scientists will be coming with the vaccine, and India will be taking a lead in that regard. And very soon, I think people are predicting that by the December, most probably a vaccine will be coming. I'm not a scientist and not knowing much, but so far as I can tell you on basis of my access the information from the media, and I believe positively, because this is really required. This is legally required for the humanity. Humanity as a large is suffering, and not only humanity. I tell you, this is entire. You know what, the climate, entire every stakeholder of the climate, say the wild animals, say the animals, the human beings, the natural resources, river, all see directly and indirectly are being. See, there happened to be you know what, when the lockdown has been introduced, there was article I was reading, this kind of lockdown, the on regular intervals is required for the climate. So the climate is, the environment is feeling fresh. So there were certain positive things also in the lockdown so far as environment is concerned. So you can see the downing the pollution level, the air pollutant level, the water pollutant level is all, you know that we are living in Delhi, in the NCR. We are in a position, we are highly polluted stage. You remember the remark made by honorable judge of the Supreme Court when he was going and attending, and the traffic jam in Delhi and all that. So in a way, in this lockdown period, people started felt, and people are like academia is recommending that, or even I'm also personal of the belief, if it is possible, there must be a regular interval lockdowns also. And anyway, that will be a little bit deviating from the topic. Let me come back to the topic and let me finish my former presentation. So pricing the drug and medical devices and equipment, as I was talking about, see, there need to be a regulation. There to be the revision of the list. There is idea that publishes Indian Drug Review periodically publishes with the new drugs that are available in the market with regard to the disease. We need to understand the nexus between the medical practitioners and the pharma practitioners, and then the players of the pharma sectors. So how the prices are being high. The tablet that amounts only hardly to the 2 to 5 rupees in the market is available more than 100 rupees as a cost. So there is another story behind it. So someday else when I will be delivering the lecture, I will talk to it. But there is a need to regulate this also. Now the vaccine safety measures, I was talking to you. We are all we have a national vaccine policy 2011, and to regulate that, and the law and the policy labor. Now the medical technologies. See, medical equipments are one thing, then the medical technologies. So how it can be better implemented, how the research can be better promoted into that. So that's also requires regulation in India. Then the public procurement. So we procure the things from the public, the government. In the government hospitals, many of the medical technologies and the medical equipments are being procured. So to regulate that, then the availability of drug and medical devices, as we have discussed, aligning other policies for medical devices and equipment with the public health goals, improving public sector capacity for managing essential drugs and vaccines, is the another thing which this policy talks about. I'm quickly covering because we have to cover legal things. Then the antimicrobial resistance, health technology assessment. Feel free to ask anything if you think it is really pertinent to write. You can talk to it anyway. So digital health technology and ecosystem, and then the application of digital health, leveraging digital tools for Ayush, health surveys, health research, strengthening the knowledge for health. So these are all the policy talking about to regulate drug innovation and discovery, development of information database, research collaborations, governance, the role of central and state, how it can be done in a more implemented in a more better way, in a more cooperative manner, in a more cooperative federal manner. Then the role of panchayati institutions, what the panchayati institution, the municipalities, the local self-government institutions can play the role. The municipal hospitals are there. In panchayats you will find the rural health centers. Then the improving the accountability. See, the policy also talks about the improving the accountability. And last thing, that is the legal framework of healthcare and health pathway, exclusively healthcare. What is the legal framework? So one of the fundamental policy question being raised in the recent years is whether to pass a health rights bill, because I told you there is no health right act as such. We are clear to the constitutional provisions. So whether we need a national health bill or not. So this policy does talk about it, of national a health right bill, and health a fundamental right, in a way that was done for education. The policy questions is whether the number of things are there in this. So we do really need or not. We in the question and answer session, if the time will permit, we will be taking your views also. See, implementing the framework and way forward. A policy is only as good as it is implemented. So the national health policy envisages that and implemented framework we put in place to deliver on other policy comments. So with this, few things I will add from my side for you all. It is not exactly the in a way it is addition from my side, and that is really requires the attention of the academia as well as the policy makers and all. Few very quickly where, see, the compulsory health policy for all, tuning with the US and Europe in that model may be really required in India also. Of course, I know that the kind of infrastructure we have, we it to be wait to introduce that system, the compulsory system, but sooner or later I think this will be really required. And then the right to health should be statutorily recognized, as the policy talks about also, the health bill. Then this Ayushman Bharat Yojana is a landmark scheme. The only thing I would like to say is that it should be implemented in true spirit. We'll be doing a massive reform. Basically, so far as our below poverty level income is concerned, our population is concerned, because we see, try to understand the limitation of the government also. We the kind of population size which we have with the available infrastructure, so there are inherent limitations to the government also. I agree that there is more to be done from the government side. Now, the accountability of the medical practitioners. See, ultimately, see, the medical practitioners, say the doctors, the nurse, the others, they have to think it that they are considered to be the God. They are next to the God on the earth. So they should not be only think in a manner, and they should see, they should not only do because they have taken a Hippocratic oath. Apart from that, from their inner conscience, because see, they are being equated with the God. So I think, and my sincere request to the all medical practitioners, either the nursing or the doctors or all, see, law, policy, or any judgment or all, they see, this is one thing, but see, ultimately all individual is being guided from inner conscience. So my respected doctors, my respected nurse, my respected other medical practitioners and personas, the lab technician, even to the extent of peons, you are all, I know that you are serving the country at the cost of your life, but, and we salute you for that. You are really the corona warriors. We salute you for that. With this, I will say and request to be keep on performing, keep in an accountable manner, in a responsible manner. Being a medical practitioner, your responsibility is more towards the society, at least in this scenario, the COVID-19 scenario. So with this, I think this is all about from my side right now. As a lecture, I will be opening myself for question and answer session. I said very many things. I try to be within the limited period of time covers the maximum I could cover, starting from Supreme Court, the constitutional perspective, the clinical trial, the number of things, the policy and things all. So with this, I rest my case here and I open myself for the question and answer session and for rest of the proceeding. Over to Dr. Jube, and I am really thankful to the all authorities of the IP University, the Faculty of Law, IP University, the DSW, the Constitutional Club, you all audiences, my dear students, my dear colleagues. Thank you all for kind and patient hearing. Over to you, Dr. Jube.
Thank you, Dr. Vikesh. Laba, I think you can ask the participants about any questions.
Yes, sir. Sir, that was indeed a very informative session. We thank you very much. Participants, you may ask the question now. You may ask by typing in the chat box or by unmuting yourself.
See, feel free. May I speak? Feel free, my dear students. And don't say that key, like you have a question that maybe like go something out of consequence. See, don't think like, if you will ask, it's the best beginning, I tell you. We happen to be the student. We were at your stage. The only difference that we have read something well before you. So few days after that, you will be here. So stay out. If you are in a law, you have to speak either as an advocate, either as a judge or as a legal academia or wherever. You have to speak, my dear. So speak this.
I think Dr. Vikesh,
There
I
are
think
some
question has been
questions.
put on the chat box. So Laba, you can read.
Or ask
Yes, sir.
we can read it out from.
Laba, you can read.
Yes, sir. Sir, this question is from Ashutosh. He says, the center has been planning on adding health under the concurrent list in year 2022 when India will celebrate its 75th Independence Day. What impact will it have on the health center?
So I can see the screen by and chat box by Asutosh. I thankful to the Asutosh for asking this question, and I really interested to answer this question. The center has planning to adding a health under the concurrent list. So I hope you are all aware with the consequences the moment it will be added into the concurrent list. Both the center and the state will be empowered to enact the law, because the normal scheme of the distribution legislative power is that on the union list, the first list, the union will enact the law. On the state list, the state will enact the law. The moment it will be in the current list, both can enact the law. And the consequences will be, you all knowing that the principles of the interpretation. So if there will be inconsistency between the law made by the state and the center, so the law made by the state will be, center will be prevailing over it. So this is the provision, and this will be the legal consequence once it will be in the concurrent list. Concurrent list, a scheme of the constitution that has been taken from the Australian constitution to balance certain things, because India was having a different systems, and the Constituent Assembly, after debating a lot of things, added this. I see, I am a man of positive thinking, and I think, see, it will be definitely creating a win-win situation. The more comprehensive manner the health infrastructure, the entire health administration in India, the public health administration in India will be better managed by putting the things into the, because see, it will be avoid the, you know what, the unwanted and unprecedented. Many a time it happens, you know, you can say that nowadays, being a student of law, many a time the center and the state, in few states, they are, you know what, opposite to each other. So without commenting on that, my point is that it will be provide a smooth functioning for that. And I think in a better cooperative managed way, better cooperative federal model, the center and the state in a participatory manner will be in a position. And I agree that, see, in the state, few states, the state government has not able to be established the public hospitals. So if the center and the state, rather than establishing their own hospitals, like central hospitals in the form of AIIMS and the state running, they can establish a single hospital in a central and state participatory manner. It can be the another scheme. Apart from that, see, the public sector hospitals are different, so there can be PPP model also, the another model. So this is the another thing. PPP model hospitals can be where government and the state government, central government, and the private players combinedly as a joint venture, they are establishing the hospital. So that can be the another recommendation, a beautiful thing, and that can be easily possible by putting it into the concurrent list. So I hope, Ashutosh, I am loud and clear, and I am clear to you. If I am not clear, please let me know where is the doubt.
I hope Ashutosh is satisfied with the answer.
Yes,
The time allows.
Yes, announce. Laiba, go ahead. Sorry.
The time allows us to entertain one more question.
Participants can unmute themselves and they can ask question. If they think that they cannot, they don't want to use chat box, they can ask questions directly. Laba, I don't think there is any other question. We can move ahead for the other formalities.
Yes, sir. Sir has been kind enough to grace our event of legislative drafting competition. This competition is a unique opportunity for students to understand the importance of conception and implementation of public policies. They now tackle the common dilemmas in striking a balance between populist policies and realistic policies. Sir, if you allow, should we start with the event?
Yeah.
First of all, yes, I'd like to make a small intervention. Thank you, Dr. Vikesh, for sharing the platform with all of us. And I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for you, where you have discussed many nuances about the right to health and the public health issues also. And of course, as you rightly discussed about a very significant topic even today, that this public health policies has faced different types of injustice and oppression altogether. And considering this pandemic phase altogether, we have faced all different issues in fulfilling the basic fundamental things mentioned in our preamble of the Constitution, as well as in the directive state's policy also against the state also. he rightly discussed about the right to health, how it plays a very important role in many various international instruments, as well as the in our Indian constitution perspective also. There have been a number of judgments which he quoted, which seems to be very relevant today altogether. And for the researcher like us and for the law students also, it's a very good area where we can do research on this particular topic also. And one of the most important issue which we've discussed about the significance of primary healthcare, which has been discussed for the last 20 to 30 years also. But I think the time has come as regarding this pandemic phase also, to make it more compulsory, this about the secondary or tertiary healthcare perspective also. So in that regard, even today also, as he rightly pointed out, that how the you can say the ethical duties and the legal duties seems to be very important for many, you can say the practitioners or even today altogether. And in that perspective, you see, we have seen this good success in the medical diplomacy, especially our country plays a very important role altogether, and from the last 2 to 3 months also. So this is in a particular area where we can actually develop a national I can say health policy, as rightly discussed by Dr. Vikesh Ram Tripathi. So thank you so much, sir, for discussing a number of issues on public health policy. I also like to wish sincere gratitude to all my faculty colleagues who are the faculty coordinator of this event, Dr. Anuj Vaksh, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, and Dr. Vanna ma'am also, and Professor Manpreet Kaur also, who is the director of DSW also. And I think we can start with our next I can say event also, that is about the final round of our legislative draft competition. So Laba, I think you can just announce the names, that who are the top five people who are supposed to present their paper.
Well, I would like to add
Yes,
some.
sir.
Laiva, just a second.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
It was very enriching lecture. My congratulations for that. And I just want to add something. Means we have discussed about the constitutional right and what rights we are having in India. But the recent from last 6 months, whatever we are facing, it's not only the from Indian perspective, but from global level. So one thing means just coming into my, that why we cannot impose the principle of strict liability to China, because the corona, all of us are suffering because of the negligence of any lab which is not established yet, or from a country. So from international level, whether we are talking about WHO or the other developed country, means in India most of the things came from foreign land. So why we are not talking about implementation of strict liability principle? Why we should not be compensated? We are having the population and daily we are losing 1,000 plus life. So we should come up with something in health field also, at international level, apart from our constitution, whatever rights we are having. There is a high time when we should talk about the international obligation towards the country where population is large, and we were not at fault, right? So this is just a point I wanted to add. Otherwise, thanks for giving us your precious time. And now, Laiva, you can go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. So each team will be given 7 minutes for making their presentations, and the judge will be allowed to question them after that. The first team we have is of Khushi Chadda and Ayush Saxena. You may start with your presentation.